everyone, and welcome to the 43rd Annual Mill Valley Film Festival. I'm Karen Davis, Senior Film Programmer, and I'm delighted to be joined by Teresa Anna, the director of the Dutch feature film, The Warden. Teresa is actually a Mill Valley Film Festival alumna, and some of you may remember her 2007 film, which premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, The Bird Can't Fly, starring Barbara Hershey, the great actress. And subsequently, that film was part of the Mill Valley Film Festival lineup for that year. She released her second feature film in 2012, Silent City. And please correct me if I'm wrong here. I think The Warden is your third feature because you are actually a multimedia artist, performance artist, theatrical director, and busy with many other forms of art. So welcome, Teresa, and please welcome back into the Mill Valley Film Festival lineup.
Thank you so much. Very happy to be there. No, I wanted to be there real, but I'm here now online, which is strange for me, for you, for everybody.
Yeah, strange times. So go to the film. My first question is about the uniqueness of the story and the setting. Can you talk a little bit about how the script took its shape and whether there is or is not a real Benty Island bird sanctuary?
It is very strange how I come to this story. I was on the other side of the world. I was in Chile when my producer sent me an email and said, "Don't you have a nice story?" And I was there in a quite problematic situation in Chile, and I was really longing for home. And I thought, my next movie I want to make at home. And so I'm living on a very tiny island in the north of Holland with a lot of birds and a lot of nature. And I thought I must make a story. So I start inventing. And that afternoon in Chile, I wrote the whole story about this solitary man who's a warden on an island. And then I sent it to my producers. They were enthusiastic. And during my stay in Chile and my way back, I wrote the script. And then I shoot it just 5 minutes from home. So Benty Island is a fantasy.
Wonderful. Although you shot it close to home, now that we know, what was your research process like for the film? Because it's quite specific about the life of a warden, of a sanctuary, and what he does.
Yeah, I do know quite some scientists who work with birds. I had a lot of information from them. I did research how people count, how people work with how wardens work. And there were two people who were, for me, very important, and they don't know, very important inspiration. And one guy is George de Jonge. He is a warden or a bird scientist who works up on a tiny island up north of Alaska. And I saw photos from his shed where he lives. And I use a lot from his shed to copy into my movie. And there was a woman, and this guy, by the way, this George de Jonge, worked on the island for 45 years, for a long time, and always in isolation. And there's another woman, I forgot, Sable Island is the name, and near Canada. And there's a woman who lived there for years and years and years alone, and she worked with horses and how you call them? I don't know the English name. Wild horses and seals. And so that was her research. And these two people, without them knowing, were my sort of inspiration. Because people thought, why you want this man there alone for 45 years and he's not mad? I wanted somebody who deeply loved nature and who, in a way, the nature is his best companion. And so it's a solitary, extremely happy man.
Yes, his life seems quite fulfilled considering how little there is surrounding
Yeah.
him. So can you speak to us a little bit about the challenges of the production? For example, how did you film the incredible storm scene? And how did you conceive of that amazing plastic trash construction, which essentially is his survival mechanism against the storm?
Yeah, now the most difficult thing with the shoot was that I wanted to shoot during the breeding season. And this island where I live is for a big part is a national park. And you're not allowed to be there during breeding season. So that was complicated. We needed a lot of permits and a lot of problems with bird protection people. We were making a film about birds. So the first thing that we had high in our rules was that we were very careful with everything in the nature. We had a very tiny crew, and everything was done by strong regulation and protocol. But that was the most complicated one for me. The plastic, I collected them myself from the beach here.
Wow.
For 4 years, since the moment in
Wow.
Canada, in Chile, I start collecting. So all the plastic is, and it's horrible to say, it's just from the sea, from the ocean. It's just, I picked it up every few days. I picked up some more and more, and my whole carport was full. So my husband was very happy when we finally were ready with the shoot, the car could go in again. But for example, there is one shot with the lighter. Almost every time I walk on the beach, I find a lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole collection, it's just from here, from us, from all of us. We just throw it in the sea. Mm-hmm. And you ask about the
storm scene, how you did that. It is so gripping.
Thank you. It was partly we didn't have a big budget, so we had to pray. Like Barbara Hershey that time told me, she had always ask the weather gods, and I can tell you the weather gods were very, very good to us. When we needed wind, there was wind. When we needed clouds, there were clouds. When we needed sun, there was sun. And sometimes we said to each other, how is it possible? Today we had wind machines ready, but we were not allowed to use them because for the birds. So we had them as a sort of in case, but then there was the wind. So we used the real wind. And of course, we emphasize it in the post-production, the sound. And the sound does a lot, of course. Mm-hmm. And then the real storm, most of it happens inside the building. Mm-hmm. And so we built a little house, and it had a whole mechanism of moving and so on and so on. Mm-hmm. It were the weather gods that they loved us.
Quite extraordinary. And speaking of extraordinary, the actor, can you speak to us a little bit about Freek de Jonge, who you cast as the Warden? The whole film depends entirely on his performance, and it's really quite a heavy lift for any actor. So how did you find him, and what were you looking for when you cast the role of the Warden? I understand that Freek is primarily a comedian, a musician, a writer, another multi-talented artist like yourself. Tell us about your casting, please.
Freek de Jonge is 75 years old, and you don't believe, because he's fit. He has an energy. He's amazing. So I wanted an old man, and I didn't want. I wanted a comedian, because I'm quite serious. In my stories, it's always that's me. I'm serious, and I wanted to make it light. So I thought I need a comedian to play this role, and there are a few beautiful comedians in Holland. but his face I love the most. But this guy has nothing with nature. So for 2 years, I was walking with him, let's say once every 2 months. We did a walk for an hour or 2 hours, just talking, and getting him slowly into this character of this. For example, I took him once to the beach, and this is my cell phone, and let's say this is a piece of wood on the beach. So the first time when I was with him on the beach, he picked it up, but he picked it up like this. And I thought, oh no. He had to pick it like this. It was a grounded character. So that's what I worked with him on. And the beautiful thing is that he's not afraid. He's 75. He is in Holland extremely well known. And he let us look into his soul. He's very vulnerable in the role. And we see, an old man at the end of his life.
Yeah, he does an amazing job.
He does. And there was one thing was important. When I was writing the script, I thought, you have loads of movies about, most of the time they are men, almost, they're all men, solo, one actor movies. And it's always a character who is stuck in a hole, who is stuck in the sky, who is cast away, who's on an island. And they always want to go back to the world of the normal world, the people's world. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I wanted the opposite. I wanted somebody who is happy in his isolation and doesn't want to go back. And and I think for 90 minutes he does a beautiful role.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Here's a question for you. Every day the warden goes outside and he greets the cross that marks perhaps the grave of someone named Ishmael. So, of course, we think of Moby Dick because Ishmael is the narrator of Melville's most famous American book. And also, according to the traditions of Islamic, Catholic, and Jewish biblical traditions, Ishmael was the first son of Abraham. His mother was an interesting Egyptian servant. But on and on, I just had to ask you if you can tell us who is Ishmael for you in The Warden?
For me, it can be anybody. It can be everybody. It can be the previous warden. It can be somebody who had a shipwreck, how you call it, an accident in the sea, and he's buried there. Ishmael is absolutely inspired on Moby Dick. It's for me, it's an eye wink to Moby Dick.
Yes,
because it's a beautiful book, and for a long time I had an idea that Moby Dick was the Bible of this warden. Mm-hmm. So I had Moby Dick was on set and it was in the house, but it just didn't. In the editing, I didn't need it, and I like it very much to keep this character fake, and it's a friend. It's when he arrives, he see the grave, and you think, okay, what's this grave? And next shot, he greets it. We are 45 years later, and so for me, it's a person he talks to, a friend. Mm-hmm. Then the other thing, what is just a little inside look into this Freek, the main actor. He 40 years ago he was here on the island and he lost a child. His child died 2 months old, and it's buried here on the island. So it's also something that I gave to the actor extra. For him to inspire his role.
Yes.
And for the actors himself, he always used the grave as almost like it was his brother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, he called for it, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do see again the connection with Moby Dick, and thank you for explaining that for you as an inspiration, this impossible quest to overcome this, to do something impossible, and to narrate a story about an impossible quest. There's a lot of layers of meaning that that one can see in the Melville book,
Yeah.
but you gave Freek a personal deep connection that he went with from his own life.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So I'm going to venture something with a comment that I had after I saw the film and the team saw the film and was struck by the beauty of the film. Another thing we were struck by in our area here is a kind of an allegory that I don't know how to put it. There's no way that you could have known that the film makes a beautiful allegory for the lives lived in this age under self-imposed quarantine, like the lives we are all living under the pandemic. And the Warden, like many of us, discovers nature all new, as if for the first time every day when he goes outside the door, just as we do, discover the simple things just outside our front doors. So the film also shows us what it's like to have a human-to-human flesh and blood encounter after a long period of isolation, and the complexity of fear and joy that's involved in finally meeting another person after such a quarantine, let's call it.
Yeah,
So,
we maybe made a lot of jokes. Shall we call the film quarantine or the? But we didn't do it. But
yeah, so have you thought about the film this way since COVID hit? How much your script was, in a way, so predictive?
yeah. No, of course I thought of it, but I was ready the day we got 2 days. I delivered the movie when it was totally ready 2 days before we had a lockdown. And so it was extremely strange because the whole world changed. And it's funny, I didn't look the way you say now. It is different because I'm always made it in a world that were no corona world. So now it's different. It's a different world now. We look different to the movies. And I think that the only thing that I can say is that I'm very lucky that I made this movie where touch is almost not there. And yeah, no, I didn't think of it, if I'm honest. No.
Yeah, well, it resonates on so many levels in which we've all become the Warden in a way.
Yeah.
And every instance where we do encounter each other, the question of touching or not touching and the fear that comes up after so long apart is really incredible. And I thought, she's a psychic. Theresa has predicted our age in
Luckily
that we're living on our own Benty Islands in a way, but I won't take it too far. Yeah. So tell us something. What are you writing and working on now? Is it a cinema project, a theater project? What are you doing?
I'm working on a podcast series about what it is to be a milk cow, to be a dairy cow. So I try to imagine what it is for me as a woman to be a dairy cow. And it's a horrible project, I can tell you. It's tough. So I'm really, but it's a fiction. It's fiction, but I use reality. And I'm working on
Are you grass-fed in a field, or are you in a factory?
No. That's you can't do it in a movie. It's really podcast. Mm-hmm. So it's really only sound. So I can create a world where what is the name of that novel? And also there's a television series from home. This women. So I'm creating a horrible
The
world.
Handmaid's Tale.
Yes,
I believe
that
you
one.
mean The Handmaid's Tale.
That one. Yeah. So it's that's how, you know, it's a sort of story like that, but then really literally about dairy cows, and then turn it into a woman. What it is, and that's it's very, and I make it also a bit comic because it's horrible. It's so horrible. You have to make it light. So that's one project I'm working on. The other project is I'm following a fisherman who is getting very old, but he can't stop fishing. So I'm following him, his physical breaking down process. And I'm working on another podcast about the ocean. But that's still in a very, very beginning state. Making a movie is so expensive and it takes so long, and normally the finance process takes long. And with the podcast, you can go a bit faster.
Of course. Of course. Well, it's been such a delight to speak with you about the Warden and your new projects as well. So we wish you all the best of luck and good health. And thank you so much. The Mill Valley Film Festival. Next year, please come back with another project.
I will. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.